Dog goes woof, cat goes meow, bird goes tweet, and mouse goes squeak. Cow goes moo, and frog goes croak, and the elephant goes toot. Ducks say quack, and fish go blow.
Hey, this is Steve Good on the Coin Chat with my co-host Yuri Cataldo, and today we are joined by Bitcoin Benny, otherwise known as Ben Fairbanks, CEO of Komodo, now CEO of Red Fox. Benny, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Bitcoin Benny, welcome to the show.
Good.
Yeah, cool.
That was a lovely dramatic pause. I thought you were going to add more titles to Benny.
I was thinking it's like the mother of dragons, and she's got like the breaker of chains, and she's got this, and she's got. I was running out of names for Benny here, really, honestly.
Most people just call me excuse me.
Breaker of exchanges, or
excuse me.
Yeah. Breaking a few exchanges, yes. Guilty.
So, well, I mean, listen, welcome to the show. I mean, we've been talking
Thank you.
for quite a long time, and we've known each other through the YouTubing community. And naturally, as you know, we've been speaking to Komodo, mostly to CA333, otherwise known as Caden, a couple of times. And we even ran a competition with Komodo, which is a whole separate discussion, and someone figured out the puzzle magically, which was really cool. But today we really want to talk about what you're doing with Red Fox, and of course, many people who are not aware of what Red Fox is and how it's even related to Komodo. So why don't you just start by telling us, what did the fox say?
Okay. Good question. I won't do the singing. I'm pretty awful at that. But essentially, you do that too well.
I have little boys. I've practiced. Don't worry. Anyway, over to you, mate.
That sounds like something Rolf Harris would say. The actual Red Fox actually came about with when we were obviously working with Komodo. Komodo is an open source platform, as you know. As the interest came about and as they sort of overcame the issues of scalability, they obviously had privacy in the beginning and interoperability. What happened was we started thinking, okay, some big businesses are getting interested in this, but Komodo is not really a company. How do we actually take this to the next level? So the logical progression was to say, let's look at what Red Hat did for Linux, and let's treat Komodo as Linux and Red Fox as Red Hat. And why don't we go and actually build out commercial-grade, enterprise-level businesses on top of Komodo's technology? So let's not wait for people to come to Komodo, work it out, build on it for themselves, which is something that we obviously need to happen in parallel. But we thought what we should have is something that actually builds out on top, that is a legitimate business and can sign deals with these big heavyweight corporates. So that's how it came about.
And just to put this in context for a second, so Red Hat being a company that when it first launched out, people thought it was a bit of is this a joke? Because they were building on top of open source Linux. And they went from nothing to this unicorn that sold for $36 billion to, I think it was IBM, right? So
yeah, well,
look at this and compare it. What you're describing, in my opinion anyway, or the way I'm reading this is, you're describing what could potentially be a true unicorn in the sense of what Red Hat did for open source in the Linux world. You're going to replicate conceptually some of those aspects, but do it in your own way, but in blockchain, leveraging the underlying tech of Komodo.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think that some people that are not familiar with the Linux model and the Red Hat model kind of get stuck a little bit and sort of say, I don't really understand what you're trying to do. Like, Komodo's already awesome. And Komodo is already awesome. But the thing is, much the same as with Linux, the end user couldn't just come along and say, I'm going to use Linux and I'm going to use it in everything that I use on a daily basis. Whereas what we're trying to say is, let's build out businesses that are not only needed but are demanded in emerging markets. Let's build out a business that is solving a problem, that's using blockchain technology, and let's make it so that the end user doesn't even need to realize they're using blockchain technology. And that's the biggest thing that I struggle with, and I'm sure you do, and everybody in blockchain is, how do I get a wallet? How do I send money to an exchange? What happens if I click the wrong address? What happens if I make a mistake? I'm scared. What if I get hacked? What we want to do is say, here's a business that you're used to using, something that you're very familiar with. It runs on blockchain in the background. You don't need to know about that. And this is, I think we're much better off to try and take mass adoption to the people rather than waiting for the people to come and mass adopt technology that's not quite ready and not quite finished yet. Yeah. So it's very simple. It's a very simple idea, and it's been done before. We're not trying to say that we're reinventing the wheel. We're doing something that has been very successful, and we're copying people that have been very successful at it, and we're just providing a new element. It's as simple as that.
What you're describing is no different than any other tech startup that starts off typically with techies. And I've seen this time and again in my career working in fintech and working with startups and software companies where eventually somewhere along the way they were successful, but to the point where they didn't actually know how to take it to market. And you end up bringing business people in who've come from industry, who understand real technology, understand sales, understand marketing. And they say, hang on a second, you have a gold mine here. It's good, but it's so much better than you realize. And when you start putting all the marketing engine and the sales engine and hiring salespeople, building out consulting services, having people opening up accounts and building out new capabilities and new services, suddenly the whole thing turns into something because it's all made available to the public. And that's effectively, from what you're saying, it's the same idea, isn't it? It's just we're doing it yet again in another software sector. Only this time it's with blockchain, which is probably one of the first times we're seeing it being done.
Well, let me be honest with you. I was drawn to Comodo because I thought it was the most advanced, from a technical perspective, the most advanced project in space. And I thought it had the greatest chance of first getting to that end-to-end status. And the thing is that what I did in my time there so far is I've really realised how passionate the group of people that work on the project are. And you've met them, you know how they don't talk about price, they don't shill, they don't try and do like huge marketing campaigns, which is a criticism of theirs. But the thing that's very important to understand is that you've got two options. You can either go in there, and someone like me can go in there and say, right, we corporatize this, we bring in revenue streams, we completely change it, everyone wears a suit and a tie sort of mentality. Or you can say, the reason that Comodo is so great is because it is the way it is. But if we want that to go to the next level, we should build something that doesn't screw with what's already a successful formula. We should build something that we know how to do on the side that complements it, that works in unison with it, that helps it to grow by upstream sharing and by actually building out the same vision. And we both get to go to the exact same place. We're both helping Comodo, and we become simpatico. We really rely on each other. And as you said, look what happened to Red Hat. The kernel for Linux is worth 13 billion.
Yeah.
The kernel.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, if we are successful at what we're doing, this will take Comodo to that next level.
Right.
That it needs to go to. And it will allow Comodo to remain Comodo.
So explain for people, my reaction might be, oh my God, what's going to happen to Comodo? But what you're saying is Comodo is open source the way Linux was, and Linux didn't go away. So what's the plan for, because there's different, so one thing I know, because I'm familiar with Comodo, and a lot of people may not know this, is you have Comodo, the underlying open source tech, and you have kind of your enterprise Comodo stuff, right? Can you just describe for people the relationship between Comodo, enterprise Comodo, and Red Fox for everybody?
Yeah, sure. So Comodo, so Red Fox will focus on the enterprise side for Comodo and of Comodo. And this is why, I guess this is the question that leads on from what you're saying is, you've got JL777 as an advisor and obviously will help out with a lot of the core tech, and you've got CA333 as the CTO of Red Fox as well. And I got criticised in the beginning. People were saying, how are you going to look after Comodo and also do Red Fox? I mean, there's heaps of people that run multiple companies, like your Elon Musks of the world and all the rest of it. Not that I'm comparing myself to him, but what I'm saying is these two roles are very, very
better looking, though, of course. So
but these two roles are very. Let me put it this way: 50% of my time building the business side of Comodo, more than 50% of my time is in front of corporates saying, can you sign this? Can you do this deal with us? And we don't do partnerships because we're not a company, Comodo. So this sort of actually makes what I've already been doing for Comodo easier. And suddenly there's structure to it, and suddenly it works. But what we also wanted to do was do that line of separation and make sure that people understand that Comodo will always remain that open source desktop code level version of Comodo that everybody loves. But we're starting to produce stuff on top of that now independent of Red Fox on the enterprise side, like your mobile wallets and your mobile dexes and your chain creation through AWS and all the rest of it. It needs a home, needs a house. And what we need to start doing is, instead of saying, let's get 4 or 5 talented individuals to look after a wide range of products that never really get the love they need, we're better off to say, let's look at each of these products as a business and have teams running this. If you look at VBK, you look at a whole heap of these companies that are coming up now, they do one little part of what Komodo does, and they've got a whole team behind it, and they try and drive that to success. That's a very similar model that Komodo can employ down the track and make sure that each of the products that they release gets the GUIs, the adoption, the focus, the marketing, the attention. Komodo people will absolutely welcome this, because the long-term goal for everybody is to make Komodo mass adopted. That's always been the vision.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yuri's... I just wanted to see if you had anything you wanted to ask here, because you've usually got really insightful questions.
Usually does. I know. I'm fascinated by this actual product. So Benny, I'm curious. Where did you come up with the name Red Fox? Like, I get the red part. Where's the Fox part come from?
The Fox. We're based in Southeast Asia because we wanted to be where the emerging markets were, and the Fox is considered to be a shrewd, trustworthy, and good decision maker. And it's also very synonymous with stock markets in the Asian region as well. So it's
Really?
it's a very symbolic, trusted animal. So Red Fox was a logical option for us.
And red is a good luck color in Asia as well, isn't it?
To be honest, red and black are my 2 favourite colours as well. So I've always got a strong bias towards those, because they're strong. They're strong for branding. They're strong for marketing. And let's be honest, we want to do what Komodo didn't do. Komodo's concentrating on the code. We want to concentrate on that, on brands that are synonymous and strong branding, and we want to make sure that we hit the areas that Komodo didn't hit. Otherwise, 2 companies are doing the exact same thing, and it would be fruitless.
Right. So let me ask you a question then that's a little bit tougher.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
So this is something that I'm sure people are going to ask about, because, of course, Komodo has its own coin. And
sure.
You start to look at, well, hang on a second. You guys are going to use the Komodo tech, and it's open source, and you're going to do your stuff on top of that, but they're running their own thing. How do you create your own economic environment with what's it called? It's the red, what's the coin called? Fox coin? RFox coin, right. So
sure.
What's the relationship between an RFox coin and a Komodo coin? Is there any sort of relationship between them? And what does an RFox coin represent in terms of a tokenomic environment within the environment, community, companies, subsidiaries, stuff?
I'll answer the RFox one first, because by answering the RFox one, I'm effectively answering and helping to appease some of the worry that you might have in relation to KMD.
Well, I'm not worried, but but I think they're just questions that I think are fair questions that people would ask.
Yeah, for sure, 100% for sure. But you think about this, as you probably know, with Komodo, every chain that's created is an independent blockchain. So you think about this. Let's just say that we've been pretty open with the first 3 projects that we're going to do. So one of them will be in education on demand, because that's massive in the Asian region. And you can't get white teachers or English-speaking teachers to come over to Asia and live in the provinces. So now they'd be able to sit there and use a mobile phone and do on-demand English lessons with American or English teachers. I don't want to get too far into that because it'll digress, but people say, how does that have anything to do with blockchain? They've never been able to do it because they don't know how to protect the IP to authenticate the qualifications. We can do that with blockchain. Anyway, we would have that. Now, people are going to say, I don't want to have a wallet and a coin and all that stuff to be able to use this. Fair enough. We would have, and this has come into play now with Komodo and the technology, we'd be able to have what is in essence side chains, so that the technology that backs up the businesses that we build are using the core technology that is shared, and the RFox token would be used each time there is a transaction on that platform. We don't need to create a coin for the sake of creating a coin every time we build out a company. This is the common mistake that people currently make, is they say, hey, we can have a coin to it, we can have a coin to it, we can do a sale and we can make money. Now, we'll be able to actually utilize that for each and every single one of those businesses that doesn't require a coin. As the same, and Komodo as it builds out more and more products, would be able to have the same type of thing happening as well, whether it's on the enterprise or the open source side. Some of them might not require coins and would be able to use the KMD token. So it would still, and it's a coin by the way, but the KMD coin would still have its full utility and full value, and it would increase the more products are actually brought out.
Wow.
Interesting.
I mean,
so what types of...
Go ahead, Yuri. Go ahead.
I'm going to say, so since you guys have been around, you launched officially in, is it January 2019?
Yeah.
That's correct. So what types of, I guess, applications are you developing right now? Or are you still kind of just silent on those until they come?
No. We've been around for more than half a year, and about 8 months as far as concept is concerned. We moved to Vietnam about 6 months ago and really planted the seed. So a lot of people think we just popped up out of nowhere and it's just like this mad, where did you come from? We spent a long time going to conferences and meetings and talking about building our Asian footprint for Komodo and also for Red Fox. So what we did was we did a couple of proof of concept things. One of them is just about to be released that you'll see very shortly. We also co-developed and took into account a stake in an exchange. And that exchange is a hybrid exchange that is a hybrid DEX and also centralized exchange that will have an STO platform on it. That's as is the Red Fox model. We give a company our share of operational rights and all the rest of it, and then that company, well, those team of people go and they're experts at that and they go and run it. So they've got a partnership with the West African nations to be able to launch businesses from the stock exchange onto this STO platform. So this is the first sort of proof of concept that we've got. And then, as I stated, like the English company, so once we've done the raise, that's what we're raising for, is to actually build out major scale large companies on top of Komodo.
So you've already got some of the companies lined up, ready to go. You've got
3.
Right. Amazing. And where are you guys in terms of the fundraising aspects? You're doing private sales now, and then you're going to do it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
IEO private sale is underway now. The IEO starts on Friday of this week, so it's actually coming upon us pretty quickly. But we've also got interest on the equity side, but at the moment we're just focusing on the coin side.
And have you announced yet where the IEO will be?
Yes, the IEO will be on an exchange that is classed as being in the top 10 as far as volume is concerned. I'm not sure how.
Whose volume?
I'm not sure how reputable volume reports are in this day and age. But ultimately speaking, let's be honest. Ultimately speaking, we chose someone that was strong in the region here. They've got a good presence in Korea, Vietnam, and China as well, which is where we're based here in Vietnam. And the one thing I will say so far is, regardless of the volumes and regardless of its how well known it is, what we have found so far is that the customer support and the responsiveness has been unparalleled compared to people that we were previously dealing with. Yeah.
And are you able to say which exchange it's going to be listed on for the IEO purposes?
Yeah, it's called Coineal. COINEAL. Coineal.
Not if you look at the slithering animal from the sea.
Right.
I think it's probably pronounced Coineal, I'm assuming, but
I've always heard it's called Coineal. That's it. Yeah.
So
cool.
I hadn't really known too much about it, to be honest. But we know that they did a IEO here about a week ago, and it sold out in three and a half minutes.
So if people want to get in on the IEO, what we're saying is that they need to hurry up and get registered and get their KYC stuff done so they can participate and get their coins transferred, because they're not going to have a lot of time to jump in on this when it happens, because it'll probably be a rather exciting launch on Friday. So it's on Friday this week. What's the date?
And we've done two actually. We've done Friday the 12th to the 15th, and then we've done the 17th to the 19th. And the reason we did that, because a lot of people are saying, "What are you doing? You've done it at the same price for 2." The reason we did it at the same price for 2 is because the complaints we keep hearing on these other exchanges is bots bought them out in 3 minutes. We couldn't get in. So what we wanted to do is give people an opportunity to recharge and retry and get in and have another option. They can get in the first time, and we're not putting the price up, so we're making it fair for both times. So that's just how the way
Friday through Sunday, the 12th through the 15th.
Yep, and then the second one, 17th to 19th.
Or 15th
Okay.
is Monday, so 12th to the 15th is Monday, and then the second one follows on the Wednesday through Thursday. Okay.
And then we trade 4 days after that. So the trading starts 4 days after that. And at the same time, we go live on a top 20 exchange that's been around for a very long period of time that has a very high reputation for non-fake volume. That everybody knows. I'll give you a clue.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Korea.
Well, I can only make one.
Next question.
I can only
Yep.
make an educated guess that you. That's the only letter I'm going to say. Quickly tell me if you wanted to, but I just gave people a hint. That's my guess anyway. I'm sure I'm probably right.
Okay. So the thing,
Googling what exchange starts with a U in Korea.
Well, doesn't matter, because the thing is that one thing that's got to be taken into consideration is that we've got pretty much the same team as Komodo, and we've got good connections. We've been around for a long time. Everybody knows who we are. So we're very lucky, because I read a report the other day that said 94% of projects fail because they can't get on the top 20 exchange. So for us, we're extremely lucky, and only 15% of the top 6%. So only 15% of the 6% that do get onto
those projects are failing because they're not on top exchanges. What does that have to do?
It doesn't say that. It says 94% of projects fail because they did not get onto a top 20 exchange. They don't have liquidity. They did not have the liquidity. They were not able to trade.
I see.
Interesting.
Well,
and it said that 15, and it came from Hacker Noon, and I think it was, and it said 15% of the 6% that make it into the top 20 fail. So you've got a very high chance. And I feel sorry for a lot of projects out there, because I try and help people get onto some of these top exchanges, and it's just not possible. So we're very, very lucky that we've got good connections, and we're very lucky that we're able to get onto some of those top exchanges. So it gives us an unfair advantage, which we're very, very thankful and grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
So in addition to this, you're also a YouTube celebrity named Bitcoin Benny. Why did you decide to venture out into the YouTube world?
Yeah, good question. So I've been a C-level for my whole life, which is why I have no hair. And I've been doing company turnarounds for multinationals. And I came across to crypto and had traded for a while and all the rest of it, and then decided to get into it a little bit more full time. And I thought to myself, you know what? I've run some pretty techie and complicated companies before, and I would think this is pretty damn hard for people to get into. And the guy that ran, Justin Tabb, the guy that was the tech guy behind Stratum, I'll never forget one of his videos when they first started. He said, that he's pretty technical, but even as a really technical person, it took him half a day the first time he sat down to work out how to get a wallet, how to transfer coins. Now, if that's for a technical person, I feel sorry for some of the friends that I've got and relatives I've got. So I sat down and said, I'm going to make videos. I'm not going to take any, I'm just going to not take any real direction. I'm just going to be a Dear Diary, and I'm going to talk about the types of things that I find. And people come up to me and say, I can't do this, or how do I do this? So I thought, you know what? If someone asks me a good question, that's my next episode. And I just didn't have any formula. I just went at it, and it was more of a Dear Diary. And it worked because I was being honest, and I was just saying what I think. And so that's how it came about. And I've let it tail off a little bit lately because I'm trying to focus on Komodo and Red Fox. And it's a fair bit, to be honest.
Sure. Yeah, it is a lot. So that's a good point, Yuri. So he starts off in the Bitcoin world, suddenly doing like YouTubing, and then suddenly he shows up as the CEO of Komodo. How did that happen?
So that's a good question. So I'd already been into the world before, and then I got into the videos, and then I started talking about Komodo, and people started saying, you're the only one really talking about Komodo, and you're doing lots of videos and you're talking about it. And they said, why? And I said, I love it. And they said, do you know each other? And I said, I don't know them. And they said, you should go work for them then, because they're very good at the tech side, but no one knows who they are. So I said, I'd be interested. And then one of their guys reached out to me and said, do you want to take a trip to Europe, somewhere in Europe, and you want to come and meet some of the people on the team? And I said, okay. So next minute I was on a plane, and it was all pretty exciting because my partner, she said to me, I just looked at the website and it's got like a whole heap of cartoon characters. Where are you going? And I said, some mysterious place. To meet cartoon characters. And I said, yeah. She said, you're like James Bond. And I said, it's pretty cool, actually.
That's crypto.
So when I went
it's all a bit anonymous at times.
I loved it. I loved it. And I think that on the plane on the way over there, I'd already decided no matter who I met or what they said, I was in just for the sake of being able to say that I was. But in all honesty, getting there and speaking to the guys, I was absolutely blown away by what a different world they come from, and they see these in binary. They hear, think, and see. It's incredible how dedicated these coders are, and it's their lives. And my job was to try and say, well, I'll bring my part of life to this, and let's see if we can join those together. And in the end, as we've now talking about tonight, we've established that you don't need to actually join those two together. You could run them separately,
for sure,
but have them intrinsically linked. And that's a far, I believe personally, that's a far better method. And I know that you understand the Komodo project, and Yuri, you understand it, which is why you guys are putting this all together. But it's a very difficult concept for me to explain to a person who doesn't really understand what Red Hat and Linux is, or what Komodo actually does, other than the fact that
I mean, I'll try to put a link in the description below about some of the history of Red Hat, because I think if people just look up Red Hat and its foundation, how it got started, why they started doing what they're doing, I think people will realize very quickly that this is a no-brainer. That
absolutely.
I mean, we all talk about this all the time as YouTubers. So taking our Red Hat and our Red Fox hat off of our heads for a moment, and just talking as three YouTubers, dare I say social influencers, a term that Yuri hates, but
I prefer educator
in a way. I mean, what's really fascinating for me is the fact that, we're all talking about how do we get this to market? How do we get blockchain into people's hands? How do we dumb it down so that it's not so technical that we all sit there going, the what? Because there's no benefit from that. And for the same reason that Yuri and I wrote a book, which we're just in the stages of finalizing and getting out to the public, editing it now and what have you. But the whole point was to help people get started, so that they can read it and go, oh yeah, I get it. And it's not like, oh, so mega complicated, because it shouldn't be. The problem is a lot of these applications that have been built in blockchain, the UIs are awful. The user experience is terrible. The functionality is so technical, and you're looking at it going, who is this for? And the reality is they all do great things. There's some great products out there. They just need a little bit of love and care, some marketing and some business experience. And that's what the three of us represent, other than just being YouTubers, is understanding this having come from real world business into this space. So I'll
go back to your previous point. Yeah. Your previous point was, how do we get people to understand this? And the simple answer to that is, we don't get people to need to get them to understand it.
Correct.
I'll give you a weird example. When I was younger, I used to go in for a vaccine. This is showing my age. We went in for a vaccine, and it was for polio. And it used to be this spoon full of this horrible, salty tasting. Now, anyone who's over a certain age is nodding their head going, I remember that. You think, what's it for? It tastes terrible. Can't they make this, put it in a better package or make this easier? And over the years, with things like that, they find much better ways, sweeter tastes, and ways for people to actually not even realize they're doing it. But back in those days, it was an ordeal. You knew you were going to get this vaccine. You knew you had to swallow this horrible tasting stuff. You knew it was a horrible ordeal. And at the moment, for a lot of people coming into crypto, it's a difficult ordeal to sort of, which wallet do I get? I get people all the time going, I don't know whether I should use a Trezor, or should I use this wallet that I've seen on an ad at the top of CoinMarketCap that tells me it's better than Trezor. And I think to myself, oh gosh, these questions shouldn't even exist. I mean, there should be a more established market with better information.
Well, you need them to do something like that. Those questions should be showing up in like these which with the question mark. The magazine that compares products, and it should be a simple thing of, okay, well, if you want to buy a stereo, do you buy a Denon or do you buy a Yamaha? It's kind of like, well, okay, it's all its power supply and it's this and its volume and and we're guys, we just want it to be loud and pounding and whatever, but women will say no, I wanted to have this and that and blah blah, and I wanted to have auto off and whatever. It doesn't matter, it's just features. But I think the point you're making there is we want to have it presented in, sorry, I know it's weird, but I mean, we want to have it presented in a way where people can look at a Keep Key and a Ledger and a Trezor and a bit, called the bit something or other. Now people are going to troll me because I can't remember the name of the damn thing, but you want to compare them all and just say, what's the difference? And they all do have some differences in features, and it's a question of what do you need? Is it coins? Right. Is it security? Is it that fake wallet inside the real wallet, so that like your distress button? There's all sorts of different things they all have. And it's really just a question of telling people which ones work and why.
That's why I just want to go straight past that.
Just to the general masses, but no one's covering this in terms of, maybe it's an opportunity for us, Yuri, to go and do that, just to kind of break out all these wallets and these hard wallets and explain what the differences are, because no one's done it. You're right, Benny. Absolutely no one's been really doing that.
And then what we're trying to do with Red Fox is go one step further and basically just sort of say, stuff the wallets, stuff the exchanges that you use. What we're going to say is, how do you get to work every day, Grab or Uber? And they'll say, we go Grab, or we go Uber. And we'll say, why don't you take a Red Fox, for example? And they'll say, okay, what's that? And we go, 3% cheaper. Don't have to worry about using cash. You can use online payments, whatever. But what I'm trying to say is that we actually give them a version of stuff that they're already familiar with and they already use on a daily basis, and it's something that they demand, rather than saying, you have to learn something entirely new to be able to interact with this, which is not how it should be. The technology should be at a point where it enhances what you're already using, not creates more work for you, because I'm from a customer experience background, and one of the things that's come in is a thing called effort score, and it measures how much effort you have to go through to interact with the product, the company, the purchase, and the usage of these products. Mm-hmm. This is like terrible as far as a usage score is concerned, because if you want to get into crypto, you have to learn, and it's going to take a long time.
Yeah. Well, for sure. Yeah. It's got to be simpler. We got to have apps that just work. But like, it's like, what internet was at the beginning, where it was like really, or remember back when we had, FTP sites, and you had to do everything in a black screen with the white text, and you're doing FTP, whatever, to bring a file across. And you're like, oh my God, this is so like, can't it be easier? And then of course products came out that were much more UI friendly, where it did the same thing, but all you had to do was log in and it showed you the directory tree structure, drag and drop, blah, blah, blah. And it's like all these texts going all the way back to FTP or Gopher servers or whatever, to internet, to whatever now, to blockchain today. It's always been the same, that we start with tech, we build it out, and then we realize we need to make it user-friendly. So
Exactly. Yeah. So, and the thing is that we don't pretend that we know how to build necessarily the verticals that we're trying to build. We don't pretend that we're experts in every one of those companies that we build. So we actually bring in a team of people who are experts, and those experts will then run and deliver what they're very good at. And all we're doing is putting the model, bringing in the blockchain tech, coming up with the structure, making sure it's got a good chance of success, and handing it over. We don't profess to be experts in everything that we do either. So,
and just picking up on that, you talked about the vertical. So which industry sectors or verticals are you guys targeting as far as the kind of phase one of the Red Fox, market global launch?
Yeah, so we've got one major industry and then 4 sectors within that industry. So the internet economy is worth $72 billion in Southeast Asia 2018, according to Google and Temasek. They're saying that by 2025 that it will go to a $240 billion industry. So it's massive, massive growth, 3.5 times. And then what we're looking at is the 4 fastest growing sectors within that vertical, and they are e-commerce, e-travel, e-media, and then ride-hailing with food delivery and logistics and supply. So they're 4 very defined sectors. And what we do is we've got a 9-point model and funnel system, where we basically say we have to be either 3rd to 5th to market, or, because we don't want to be the first and have to deal with all the legislation and the high cost of setup, or 2 companies have 80% of market share and we can be an attacker brand and show you how to do that. We have to get to $25 million worth of revenue within the first 4 years and have a clear pathway to doing that. We have to be able to use blockchain to differentiate ourselves, and we have to be able to trademark, patent, or lock down what we build. Otherwise, we'll just get copied ourselves. So we've got a very strict system, and it cannot run on emotion. If it doesn't come out the bottom, we don't build it. But if it does come out the bottom and there's 3 or 4 there, we're going to want to do the one that we're most passionate about first, obviously. But the types of businesses that came out the bottom of that funnel were not the ones that we were hoping would come out. They are very different. And we're cool with that, because we made a conscious decision before we went into it that if we're going to do this properly and give it a good chance of success, it can't be what we want. It has to be what everybody else wants.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, before we started the call, you showed us one of your products. Can you talk about that yet, or is that still under the wraps?
We've got it. Yeah, it's under wraps, but we've got something that's. Let's just say that Komodo's talked about the fact that they've got a mobile wallet, and mobile decks and all the rest of it coming out. Any of the Komodo, that's the beautiful part about Red Fox, is we've got the same CTO, same core developer, that anything that Komodo has, then we get to benefit from that as well on the Red Fox side. So much the same as IOHK and Cardano through Charles Hoskinson. If IOHK produces something, Cardano gets it. If Cardano gets it, then Ethereum Classic was getting it. So ultimately speaking, we want this to be a shared ecosystem. We want people to come in and say, hey, Red Fox is trying to build something, and someone can go into Komodo and help contribute, and it ends up in Red Fox, it ends up in Komodo, and whichever other ecosystems are attached to Komodo in the future. So we've got a few things in the pipeline, and we're very, very lucky and fortunate because of the fact that whatever Komodo is developing, we have the opportunity to be able to utilize. So we're not going to be one of those projects that sits around and says, you know, there's the hind quarter of the horse that looks like a real horse, and by the time you get to the front, it's the cartoon character. We've all seen that. We're very fortunate in the sense that we've got very, very, very near finished, and actually always code finished. We've got a heap of products on the table that we can choose from. It's just a matter of putting a GUI on top. So we're blessed, and we're very, very, very fortunate. We're not going to be a project that doesn't deliver products. We've got a ton in the toy cupboard.
Super cool. Well,
great. Thank you.
Bitcoin Benny, Ben Fairbanks, CEO, Komodo Ben, CEO, Red Fox Benny. What did the fox say, Benny? It's been a real pleasure having you on the show. What did the fox say? Yeah. Well, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show. We wish you all of the luck and success. Well, you don't need luck. You've got your Red Fox anyway, so you've got already the luck there. But we wish you all the success for your IEO on CoinEal in Vietnam, and
thank you.
Continued success in launching this unicorn project. And we will most certainly be very happy to have you come back and tell us about how you're progressing and some of the successes that come with it. And thank you to all of our listeners and subscribers, and of course to our Komodo community, who have been very supportive to us on our show and have been great at, you know, subscribing and following us and giving us likes. And we thank you, Komodo team, as well, for just being there and supporting us. And Benny, all the best of luck with this project. Super exciting. Thanks everybody for listening in, for watching, subscribing, hit that bell. Don't forget to subscribe, because Benny is the Red Fox. To the moon. Until next time.
Thanks, guys.